quick, so I made sure I got my red tie. It's been a while since Bearcats been in the tournament, so I made sure I had to bring the red tie outfits.
Your brother and dad, you say, are coming up tomorrow. What have they meant for you? Because you've been through some pretty tough times here, where people were on your back, people were saying it wasn't happening fast enough, but they were always there.
Well, for me, it's a luxury. Very few people, maybe Jim Boeheim and myself, get to coach where they went to school, where they grew up, where they're from. So for me to have a support group that I have, mine's very big. You got my brother, my father, and my sister. Nobody talks too much about her. And obviously my daughter and aunts, uncles, all my best friends. All those guys have been tremendously supportive of me. But it makes it all the more special when you win games and you have people that you love that are there that you can enjoy it with. I'm well aware that that's abnormal in my business. Most people are coaching across the country from where they grew up, or if they want their family there, they have to literally move them to the city that they're coaching in. So it's a big luxury for me, and my family's been the best.
Now, how much concern is that Missouri pressure for you, and how big of a role will Kashmir have to play?
Well, Kashmir Wright and Deion Dixon, but really all the guys, because the biggest mistake you can make against a pressure defense is to over-dribble. What we've been working on for 3 days is getting rid of the basketball and passing the ball to the first open man. The alarm should be going off in your head. The longer you keep it, the longer you hold it, or the more you dribble it, more people are coming to steal it. That alarm needs to be sounding. It's time to get rid of the basketball. But it all starts with your point guard, so they're going to have to be strong with the basketball.
Mick, as you're here in D.C., how much do you look back at the guys that have come through the rebuilding process? Marcus Sykes and Adam Age, and those guys that never got to play here but had a role in that rebuilding.
Well, and my guys won't hear this. I have a speech prepared for tonight. When we're meeting after we get done with the film, about Ron Allen, Cedric McGowan, and then you go down to Haritzinu, Williamson, Gentry, Sykes, Jamal Warren, all those guys. We would not be here if those guys wouldn't have signed on when we had no team. There's no doubt that you think about those guys at this time. Those guys meant so much to our program to get us through the tough times. And a lot is talked about our fan base, and our fan base has been talked about negatively too much so. I worry about the people that were there when we were rebuilding, because if they wouldn't have kept coming to games, we wouldn't have been able to recruit any of the players that are in that locker room now. So, at times where you rebuild a program and things are great, you do think back to the players that helped you get here, the assistant coaches, as well as the fans that ground through the rebuilding process with us.
You said on your coach's show that it was all business once you guys left Cincinnati. What, do you chain these guys in their rooms, or how do you keep an eye on them?
Well, we go out to dinner. We come back, watch film. We already practiced this morning over at Catholic University. I'm going to let them have fun and shoot around and dunk the ball here in our public practice today. We let them pick their restaurant tonight. They got a favorite spot. Who you see advance in these games, you got to make sure that you're starting over and you're hungry for the win. It's not just okay to be here.
Mick, with those seniors in that locker room, Rashad and Larry and those guys, what were you selling to them when not a lot of people were going to UC?
Oh, real simple. Playing time. The easiest thing I had to sell rebuilding program was playing time. There's no way I could have been selling snake oil, because we had no players. So it didn't matter how bad you play, you were going to play anyway, when you first came to our program. So, that was probably the easiest thing to sell. Then you got to tell those guys that, in time we are going to win. Now, they're young and they believed they were going to win right away. I knew it wasn't going to happen that easily. And the biggest thing that I focused on in the rebuilding process and kept telling the staff, we got to make sure these guys hang in there. You got to recruit 2 classes of quality and get them to their junior and senior year, and that's what we've done. I got that formula from Rick Pitino. He's rebuilt many programs, and you look around and those are just the facts. Our women's coach Jamel, she's going through it right now. You got to recruit 2 classes, and you're not going to win until they're juniors and seniors, no matter how much everybody else wants you to win, and most importantly, no matter how much you want to win. You got to get those guys to where they're hardened, they're toughened, they know how to win, they've been through it. And really, in the Big East, it's harder than anywhere else. So it means a lot to me that those guys stuck it out, because they've been through a lot, And they're kids. It's easy for me to deal with it. I get paid. I'm overpaid probably, but those guys, they've been through a lot as a class, and they should be proud of what they've accomplished. But I don't want them to be happy with that.
You talked about your supports. What does it mean to you to have Hep around at practice, on the trips? I mean, you played for him, and now he's got a sounding board for you.
Yeah, the biggest thing I think people don't realize, my father's, he's my father. To everybody else, he's a Hall of Fame high school coach. We use the time to hang out and spend time together, because during my run to get to be a head coach at this level, we didn't spend a lot of time together. I spent all my time with Bob Huggins and Rick Pitino, and then I was in Murray, Kentucky. So we were away from each other for a long time. Even when I was an assistant at Cincinnati, I didn't see my parents that much. I was too busy working. So for us, it's an opportunity to spend time together, and that's really how we both look at it. It is nice to know, at times if you got somebody you want to talk to, they're there for you. And they've coached a lot of basketball, but, for he and I, it's a father-son relationship.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Good to see you.
Good. Don't make me late.
How do you prepare for their version of 40 minutes of hell? Do you use 7 guys on the court in practice?
Yeah, you know about all that stuff. Yeah, we all the above. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. I'm glad that we've had some practices.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to play them with 1 day prep or no day, in a tournament like in Maui where you got no time to prepare for it.
Right.
Because really nobody in our league plays like them.
Nobody.
Providence scrambles and gambles,
They're
but
not.
not with the same defensive intensity. Not the same.
Or effort.
Right. And for us, I've played against Mike's teams, especially when he was at UAB as a head coach at Murray State, as an assistant at Louisville. And going back and watching tape, it was funny. It's still the same.
Right.
They're still coming after you, still rattling you.
Right.
They lose at home to Kansas, but they still create 24 turnovers.
Right.
So it's going to be big that our guys are strong with the basketball. But it's easier said than done until you get out there and you realize how they come at you in different ways. He does a great job of making sure you're never comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people say they just run around. No. There's a method to what he's doing. They have 4 or 5 different ways they come at you, and when you get comfortable with one way, they come at you a different way. Trying to get Yancey Gates ready for that.
It sounds like you in that regard. You switch up your thing.
We try to, yeah. We try to, try to make sure, try to make sure we're pressuring you. But if you get comfortable, you got to change it. I just think that Coach Richardson and Mike have really never received the credit for their style of play because it's maybe not as controlled looking to the fan as theirs is. But it's very calculated, and they're excellent at it.
Okay.